friends, I am so glad you're here for this one. I am super excited for this video, and some of you have given me this idea periodically over time, and I don't know, it just didn't really stick with me until recently. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go ahead and do that. And what it is a full face of like some things that I've identified as old favorites. Maybe they're things that I just used to talk about a lot on my channel. You know, my channel's been around for a long time, so we could go way back with this stuff. Maybe it's something that's won an Emily Award or just something I remember really holding as a favorite, you know? I'm gonna do a full face of that stuff today, and I'm very excited about it. As I was putting together the pieces of this look last night in my makeup bag, I was like, this is gonna be fun. And by the way, this is my Dollar Tree makeup headband. I love that berry. And what we're gonna start off with actually is not the foundation, but the primer. And it's one of the first primers I ever really remember using. I was back in the apartment days. It was one Christmas. I remember my sister got me some little goodies from Sephora, and I hadn't even set foot in a Sephora at this point in my life, and I really didn't know much about it. But for a couple of holidays there, she had ordered me things from Sephora as my Christmas gift, and I remember she'd given me a Smashbox Photo Finish primer, and I thought, ooh, primer, like I don't even know about brands doing primers. And there really wasn't as much of this stuff around. More recently, like I have one. This isn't like the original old stuff in this video, but I once again find myself with Smashbox Photo Finish. It's a real silicone-y primer with this crazy good glide across the skin. And I haven't used this a lot lately, but when I think about this, I think about it being one of the first primers I ever knew of. It was packaged a little differently from this, but ooh, I'm getting serious now. I'm using primer. Oh, the glide is just crazy good with that, if that's what you're looking for. It says on this Smooth and Blur primer, they have all kinds of varieties, of course, now. This says lightweight and oil-free, contains vitamins A, E, and more. This is the original one, they say, for all skin types. So Photo Finish, baby. For the foundation I pulled out, I decided to grab from my IT Cosmetics CC cream. To this day, I really do like this product. I think it's very effective, very good. It has the SPF 50. It really does kind of give your skin some moisture, but quite a bit of coverage too. I have it in the shade Light here. I like this stuff. It hasn't been used a lot by me recently. And I know it's been an Emily Award winner, like something I've truly loved. And I pulled out a Real Techniques sponge just for, I don't know, old time's sake. I feel like I used to use these more as well. So we're just pressing that in. It gives such good coverage, really. Something I would always say about this was how it can give your skin some moisture, but I wouldn't use it alone, like without actual skincare moisturizer underneath. I still feel the same way about that. I'm thinking that looks really good. I think this shade is maybe borderline a little light right now, but I think we'll make everything make sense by the time we've got other products applied to the skin. And it's interesting because much like Photo Finish, many versions have come out of this now. You know, it's not just CC cream. They've got their nude glow. They've got their matte, illuminating, all different kinds, but this is just the original one, and you gotta admit that's got some pretty good coverage for a product labeled CC. That's always been a quality you could count on from that stuff. And then for a concealer, you know what I pulled out? I mean, I could have gone a lot of directions with some of this stuff. Like, it's not like there's one thing that would qualify in every category, but the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, I remember really giving this stuff some high praise. And I'd repurchased not that long ago, but again, it was just something that I felt like was sitting there, not with a lot of use. I got the shade NW15. It's got the little pump. It's one of those really little goes a long way liquid consistency concealers. It feels fairly thin, but it's the kind of thing that's really going to spread across your skin and kind of take up some surface area and do some work. So I'm dabbing this on my usual concealer zones. This is going to be really light and brightening on me. Okay. And we'll have some drugstore stuff coming into this video as well, don't worry. But it's interesting to use this now and kind of think about the effect I get from Shape Tape or the effect I get from e.l.f. Camo Concealer and think, does this MAC Pro Longwear give me the same kind of vibe? And I would say it's on the level. That's doing a pretty good job. Really brightened me up in some areas where I needed the brightening. I'm getting around the nose there. I went straight in with the sponge because I was a little concerned that maybe I over applied with those dots, and I kind of didn't mind if the sponge ate up some of that product. But I think that's looking really good, and even looking up super close at my skin, I don't think it even looks makeup-y. There's not much evidence of product there. That needs to get into the rotation more often. I can still see a faint pillowcase crease across my face. Gotta love that. I did get up just a little bit early for this today because we got kind of a busy morning. I want to fit in my routine. I want to fit in this, do my devotional, do my workout and all, and then I got to take Belle to her second choreography practice for cheer. They've got a choreographer in, like, teaching them their whole routine and everything. It's really exciting. For loose powder, I looked at what I had and I thought, I feel like everything's been used recently. Like, I didn't really think of something that had been an old favorite that hadn't been talked about much, and then it dawned on me. What about the original Laura Mercier? I do switch off and use this from time to time, and it's a really good powder. But do you remember when this was really thought of as the one powder that was kind of head and shoulders over the rest of the stuff? It's like there weren't as many good quality drugstore loose powders coming in and really giving it a run for its money. And this is not the Ultra Blur, this is not the pink tone, this is just the OG, the original Laura Mercier loose powder. I've already got some sifted out there in the top. I will grab a powder puff. We will set this under eye, although this concealer isn't, it could use a little setting, but it's not really dewy. Yeah, I'm going there. I'm feeling like this is going to be kind of a glam look today, actually. I feel like I've generously set those areas. And then I'm going to take this Morphe brush. It is such a good powder, you know? I've always felt like that was one where when I put it on my skin, it did something extra beyond just like changing the texture from dewy to more matte. It went beyond just smoothing me out. It also has that slight bit of blurring capability, which I think the Ultra Blur goes even a step further on. But let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with this result here. I am very matte, I will say. The combination of the products I have used so far have really amounted to a matte finish, but the coverage is totally there, and I'm actually not looking too heavy with that coverage. I think I could have tolerated a little darker shade of that foundation, but don't worry, it's coming. Bronzer's coming. I also pulled out a pressed powder that I really remember when I started in the news. I remember kind of taking note of what other people had in their makeup bags because, you know, all the news people do their own makeup. And while tons of drugstore makeup seemed to get used, I did notice multiple people had MAC Studio Fix. This is not the original Studio Fix that I once had and used on the news. I've since repurchased. This is in C4, the Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation. And I thought maybe I'll just throw a little bit of this into the look as well, just for old time's sake, because I haven't used this in quite a while too. And I'm kind of using it in the same idea as the way I've been using Maybelline Superstay pressed powder, and it's like very lightly getting it on my brush with the knowledge that yes, it could be standalone powder foundation, so use lightly, but just using that to dab all over, and the end result is going to be really good staying power today for the fact that I did this. But yeah, that powder has a nice soft texture. It's actually not quite as soft feeling to the touch, like when you put your finger in it. Not quite as soft as the Maybelline Superstay. And you know, really stretching this product would be using it as powder foundation, but I just used it as a little setting powder just to get it involved, you know. For bronzer, I thought let's pull out Butter Bronzer. I think a lot of people still love Butter Bronzer. I think it's a great product, and I'm more likely to use it actually in my Butter Dream Team palette, which is honestly handy at all times. I love that palette. But as a standalone product, remember when I would always rave about the sculpting shade of Butter Bronzer? It's a little deeper and it can really go there. It's very soft, very pigmented, but for sure substantially darker than the original shade that came out of Butter Bronzer. So I'm taking some of this with my BK Beauty 107, and I'm just letting her come in around the hairline. I feel like this bronzer really does have to do some work today, restoring a little bit of the color that my skin had. When I tell you I lived in sunscreen this past week, oh, that Aveeno Baby SPF 50. If you feel like you've got sensitive skin, which sometimes my skin can get pretty sensitive, and you absolutely do not want to get a sunburn, use the Aveeno Baby. Like, it will not fail. It goes on looking kind of white cast, so you have to spend some time blending it in. But when I'm just doing sunscreen and only sunscreen on my skin, That stuff really does not fail. I learned the hard way back when we were in Destin, I think the first time we ever went, and I used spray sunscreen. And let me tell you, I got the worst sunburn of my life. And not only did I use it, I reapplied it. I thought I was out there being diligent. That stuff was not doing the work. I don't know how I got into starting to use Aveeno Baby. Probably when Nook or Biddy were really little and I was using it on them, and then I was just like, okay, I need some too, so I'll put it on, and realized it worked amazingly well. Nobody burns an Aveeno Baby. But I just kind of reserve that for my face because it is harder to blend in. And then I use some kind of like, what did we have? SPF 70 that we were using all over the body. Okay, I've been on autopilot here with this bronzer. Sorry. I'm not in love like I once was. I think I've encountered so many good bronzers. It's good and all. And I feel like it's more rare to see somebody just bust out powder bronzer because everybody's into all the cream textures right now. I don't know. I'm liking it. It's a good texture. It really doesn't look powdery on my skin. I'm just not having the same feeling that I had for like MAC Pro Longwear and It Cosmetics CC and Laura Mercier, where I'm thinking, I'm gonna use this a lot now. I'm not majorly feeling that way about it. But that's okay, that's why we're revisiting stuff. We're revisiting and reconsidering in the context of the current makeup landscape. For blush, I picked out one from Milani that I know I was just really obsessed with for a time. It's the Romantic Rose Powder Blush. The shade is called Romantic Rose. So pretty. Could they have done a more beautiful job on that? And I believe this is still available. I really tried to stick with things in this video that are available to this day. And more recently I'd gotten into like the brighter coral shade of this stuff, but I haven't gone back to Romantic Rose in a bit. This dusty rose, soft shade. So I thought, let's use that. And for a little tease on the upcoming content in the video, it's gonna coordinate well with the eye look. Yeah, I love this. I'm not feeling like I'm being too careful. I'm actually kind of building it up a little bit, but it's beautiful. We are super matte though. I mean, good Lord, every step of the darn process has been matte. I love that blush. Love, love, love. But we got highlighter coming in. This was my highlighter pick, you guys, from the Balm Mary Luminizer. Anyone? I got this little trio here. The one that has the Cindy Luminizer and the Betty Luminizer. But Mary is the one, isn't it? It's the one who got the whole Luminizer thing started. I feel like Mary Luminizer was one of the first major highlighters on the market, actually. Like, she was highlighter before everybody felt like they needed highlighter as a step of their makeup. So as you can see, I'm just taking my Real Techniques setting brush and I'm blending that up onto the cheek. I mean, it's classic. It is really classic in the tone, that soft champagne-y tone that's, you know, just the perfect neutral, not too golden, but capable of a lot of shimmer and glow. I would love to hear what things you've seen in this video that are part of your daily routine to this day. Have any of these favorites that I'm remembering as past favorites really stuck for you and been consistent use things? That looks pretty. That did kind of help bring the complexion to life a little bit more, I think. I would like a setting spray and I didn't even pull one out. I feel like the obvious setting spray choice would be Urban Decay All Nighter, but I still use that one fairly frequently and already know that's still a love. So I'm going to another brand that I feel like I more frequently used in the past, and it's Mario Badescu, and I have the Chamomile Aloe Lavender one here. And I also think this might leave my skin looking just a little bit dewier perhaps after I put this on. 5 Quick Mist. Smells so good. There's the skin right now, friends. I mean, even though many matte layers were applied, I think we're looking pretty fresh at this time. For brows, looking at what I had in my drawer, the thing that I currently own that's giving me that past favorite vibe is definitely the e.l.f. Instant Lift. This has been repurchased many times over. It's not the waterproof version, but just the standard version that I know I raved on for a long time. Definitely one of the most affordable brow pencils you're gonna find in the drugstore. I'm wearing the shade Neutral Brown, and this will feel different for me because I've been using the skinniest of the skinny brow pencils lately, and this, although it's not like it's that thick, it feels really thick to me right now because I've been using that CoverGirl Nano fairly consistently. I'm trying to target this where I need it most, and she's doing a pretty good job, but it's kind of reinforcing the thing I really liked about that Nano, which was that it was so fine. it could get to that exact one place that you wanted to fill in, and you could pinpoint it very quickly, very effectively. This is still good, but I see why I like the other so much. Because I've got a decent amount of hair in my brows, and this is reminding me how the standard size pencil causes me to just basically, I'm going over hair. I'm drawing on hair right now. I'm not as effectively getting through to the skin. But alas, I think we've got some decent looking brows. I love how Kitten waited for me to get to a stopping point before she began scratching on the girl's door. For the gel for this, I pulled out good old Benefit Gimme Brow. Gimme Brow, the tininess of the brush. They really nailed it with that tiny brush size. But this has a tint to it, so you're gonna choose the color that coordinates with your brows. And you get hold and you get some color. It's a type of thing that could potentially be used on its own depending on your brow needs. But I think this was a pretty trailblazing product because now look what every line has. Every line has a tinted brow gel or brow cream, brow mascara type of product like this. Few are getting the brush as compact as this. I know Hard Candy has a really little brush that they're putting on their brow gel. A few brands are doing it and getting close to it. e.l.f. Wow Brow is pretty good, but this is really tiny. This is kind of winning on brush size. But as far as formula and the ability of the product, you really can get this from a lot of drugstore brands right now. We know how I feel about Maybelline Brow Fast Sculpt. Like I said, e.l.f. Wow Brow, Hard Candy Teddy Brow. There's no shortage of products that are doing that job these days. For eye primer, my friends, we're using Milani eyeshadow primer. We're just using that. Yes, it's used consistently every day, but it also bears the title of old favorite, I think. I just want to have a good base today. Good, consistent base that I enjoy. And then the palette I chose as an old favorite, because I know I gave this some praise in years past, that is still being sold to this day. Urban Decay Naked 3, baby. Yes, the OG of kind of, oh man. Oh man. A couple shades don't want to stay in here anymore, but I'm making them. But could we say that this has possibly been the catalyst for a lot of rosy eye palettes that followed? But this is rather cool. This could give you some very cool kind of muted nude looks as well. So we're just gonna go with this. It has possibly been years since I've used this palette, guys. So we are coming back to it. I'm ready to get it going, and frankly, I'm ready to get excited about eyeshadow palettes again. I want to be bringing some of these eyeshadow palettes out of retirement. I'm going to Nooner right here in the middle, that matte kind of mauve-y color. I don't want to tip my palette too much because I don't want anything else to fall out. Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when Urban Decay was being used constantly by me, like different palettes that they made, and now it's like the eyeshadow palette world has kind of quieted down some. Maybe I've mentioned this in a video before, I can't remember, or if I'm just constantly thinking about it, but they were talking about the emerging makeup trend of makeup maximalism. How the clean girl stuff is on the way out and makeup maximalism is on the way in. And that kind of excited me. So that's that color right there that I used. Whoa, come on, Naked 3, right here. And then I'm gonna blend above it with this matte as well, the one called Limit. Okay, just smoothing a little bit. I will say a couple shades fell out, but they did not break. The amount of driving we did getting to Gulf Shores, I feel like I've been all over the South. I've stopped at great gas stations. I've stopped at highly questionable gas stations. And we actually decided to take the route that took us, because we're kind of in the southernmost part of Illinois. We took the route that took us basically straight south through the eastern side of Mississippi, Route 45, which is a really nice road. It's 4-lane. In times past when we've gone down that way, I'm using this lightest shade here. Going through Nashville sometimes creates some slowdowns, and I feel like any time we've been through Birmingham, we've been at a standstill at some point. So we thought, let's just dodge that, and it was a great idea. Because let me tell you, the lack of semi-traffic on Highway 45, there weren't a lot of places to stop necessarily, but there were enough. I mean, we weren't ever in an emergency situation for stopping. But then getting off into Alabama in the southern part of that, it goes 2-lane for a while. Again, didn't end up really slowing us down or being that problematic. I'm just going over and over this, but this is smooth as heck right now. I need to put something kind of there on the outside. Let's take a little bit of Factory right here. I'm gonna take some of that same brush and kind of deepen outer corner. But on our way back, and I was driving at the time, we went through some of the heaviest rain. Like, I know it always seems heavier when you're driving, but my word, it did not let up for a straight 45 minutes. I was around Meridian, Mississippi area. It's the absolute worst when that rain is making you think, should I pull off? Like, I'm driving, praying, please make it stop, please make it stop. I was just surprised nobody else in the car was freaking out. I wasn't visibly freaking out because I didn't want to, like, upset the kids, and Bub's over here asleep. Okay, this is the difference in our makeup here. This is why I guess the two of us are together. He's snoozing over in the passenger side seat. Belle also asleep somewhere in the back. Biddy and Ugg are awake but not causing any trouble, and I'm sitting here just like, I don't know how anybody was sleeping through that. Like, it was so loud on the car. I'm taking some of that same shade. No, should I go darker? Yeah, I want to use some Blackheart there. Remember that shade that was like, oh, what was that dark shade with some sparkle in it from MAC? That MAC single that looks a lot like that. Someone tell me. Ah! Who'd I lose? Oh, I lost dust again. Never liked that shade that much anyway. Blackheart. But the odds of me sleeping through heavy rain while someone else is driving, not a chance. Who's gonna run the passenger side brake? Who's gonna grip the passenger side door handle? In tense situations, I'm somewhat of an anxious passenger. I gotta say, not the best passenger. I'm not adding anything else now. I'm going in with Profusion Small Pointed. This would have been a nice brush to have around when I was first using this palette. I think it's going really well though. I mean, look at this. Everything's blending nicely. If we can just keep the shades stuck in the palette, probably a sign I need to let it go, right? I just couldn't justify getting rid of it yet because it is still on the market. Like, I've retired my Naked palette. When I say retired, I mean it's in a box in the corner of the room. I haven't completely thrown it away. I'm not a savage. I gotta keep it for, like, show the grandkids purposes. I don't know. I just can't let go of it yet, okay? What do we think? It's really blended very nicely. I've had no issue, and I've used the darkest darn shade in the palette. Now we just need to have something on the inner part there. I feel like it's not giving off the rosy vibe that I associate this palette with. I mean, not like it's overly pink, but maybe I take this shade called Buzz, which is perhaps the most pinky looking one, and incorporate that in. So we really feel like we've used the Naked 3. Oh, I know I've done that combo a time or two, putting that alongside that darker shade. But let me tell you, when that rain did die down, like, the sense of relief that came over my entire body, it was wonderful. The trip seemed so easy. Bub was like, do you want me to take over driving? I'm like, no, things just got easy now. Like, I could do anything in the world at this moment. I'm so free. Oh, and to add insult to injury, at one moment while I was driving through the heaviest of the rain, up comes a semi going really fast. And I mean, there were minimal semis on this road, but there was one during the rain, and you know that spray that comes off, like the amount of splash I got on top of the heavy rain, I was just like, I don't know where I am right now. Jesus, take the wheel. I feel like I need to use a little bit of this palette on the lower lash line too, because that's what I would have done back in the day. I'm going back to, let's go to Dark Side. That's the second one that looks kind of grayish right here, second to the end. Let's take a little bit of that, and I'm just like putting it on the outer part of the lower lash line. I don't use a lot of straight powder down here anymore because I just know that it doesn't wear well, but I feel like this is a special day. This is a special video. It's a therapy session about anxiety in the car. Did I ever wake Bub up? Well, after this absolute heavy rain had gone on for, I want to say it was like 35 minutes or so, I tapped him and I'm like, could you please look on the radar and tell me if this is ever going to stop? And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was raining this hard. And at that time he was able to tell me that we were like just about out of it. Now that I've done that, I've blended some of that on the outer part of the lower lash line. I think I'll just dip into my Laura Mercier with this little chunky brush. It's like a chunky eyeshadow brush that was always too much for eyeshadow. I'm just gonna take that right down immediately underneath that shadow. And this is like a preventative measure that I think handles any absorption of oils that develop throughout the day and will give me the best shot at good staying power down there. At Naked 3, we did it. We pulled it off. For mascara, I look at the mascaras I have. I've done a fairly good job of keeping on hand just the things that I am using currently. Like everything I looked at in that drawer has been in my rotation recently. There's kind of an iconic product that I found in my drawer that I do continue to use. I always say you don't see it in videos much when I'm testing stuff because it gives things an unfair advantage, but Estee Lauder Little Black Primer. I thought I'd pull that in, and I do remember at one time giving some praise to the Wet n Wild Big Papa. So we're gonna layer those two. Here we go with the Little Black Primer, the LBP. So you put this on and you know, you don't really see a lot happening. For me, what makes this so special is the curl locking in ability and also the sealing ability if you want to put it on top of a flake prone mascara. But it's like hairspray. And it does kind of just give fine, thin, not so great natural lashes. It gives them a little texture. So the mascara you put on top can effectively build on something. Sometimes that's just the problem. Certain ones just slip right through your lashes. Okay, just got that one little coat there of the Little Black Primer. And then we're gonna use the Big Papa. This is not old, by the way. This has that little hourglass brush design, but it is nicely tapered toward the tip and kind of thick with product on it, actually. And it's one of the very few, if not maybe the only, Wet n Wild mascara that's really agreed with me. There are certain brands that just for a long time could not please me with mascara. One brand was Revlon, one brand was Wet n Wild. I wish Almay would bring back the formulas they had in like the early mid 2000s. Get Up and Grow, One Coat Nourishing Triple Effect. Those were iconic. Okay, look what we've done here. Look how well that has layered. It's only on this eye, on top of Little Black Primer. I can tell the curl is not going anywhere because what that primer did, it froze. It froze on the curl. May need to file this combo away in my hip pocket for days I need really good lashes. I've really gotten away from false lashes, not necessarily by choice. The times I've used them and had them on for any extended period of time, like I've ended up with some kind of irritation on my lash line. But at the same time, I made that call and kind of made that observation on things when I was dealing with eczema a lot more. So it could have just been, I mean, I think when eczema is ready to flare up on your body, things that may not have bothered you at another time kind of prompt a flare up. And I don't know, I'm a little scared, but I'm thinking about maybe trying some of those lashes that go on from the bottom, the little clusters that you put underneath and then clamp and press. I'm thinking I could get along okay with those. I actually have a set that I was using on top of the eye, but I think it's meant to be used under the eye. But just check this out. This combo is doing so well, so well. And I'm kind of liking just the softness down there on the lower lash line, maybe not putting any mascara down there. For lips, I feel like firmly in the era of naked palettes and Laura Mercier translucent loose powder, and a lot of the things I've talked about in this video are MAC lipsticks. Iconic, much loved, going back into earlier days of YouTube. I mean, everybody had their favorite MAC lipsticks, and I remember a shade called Rebel. Just kind of makeup industry wide. This is an iconic shade. You say MAC Rebel, a lot of people can probably immediately picture this color in their head. This is one of their satin finishes, and I kind of thought about maybe for this look, doing it a little bit light and blotted perhaps. And then I pulled out my Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in the shade Fussy. This doesn't go quite so far back, and I personally haven't been the hugest fan of the gloss bombs, but used sparingly, I think they're pretty on the lips. You can easily overdo it and feel overgooped by those, kind of the way you can with lifter glosses. But anywho, I'm going to take some of this and do some dabbing. I also could have pulled in a variety of nudes from MAC, like a creme de nude or a cream cup. But what I'm doing is this can be so full on. Like if you went on to Pinterest back in the day and were looking up fall makeup inspiration. There'd be somebody in a chunky sweater and a bold eye and MAC Rebel full on all over their lips, and you know, this being a recommended shade. Maybe I'll apply it a little more. We're applying it a little more fully and shearing it out. Yep, that's the stuff. I hope somebody sees this face and this lip in the thumbnail and thinks she pulled in Rebel. Let's pull in some of this gloss over top. I thought this might just like tie things in together. So this has that soft pinkiness, a little shimmer, a little shine. Remember that cartoon on Nick Jr., Shimmer and Shine? That takes me back to when Belle was younger. Currently, I feel like PBS Kids slays it in the cartoon department. Like, those are the best ones. Wildcrats, my kids will get into a freaking zone when that show comes on. Or Molly of Denali, like, they're learning stuff when they watch that. It's good. Okay, here we are. I don't think you could really pick apart the complexion too much here because we are coverage galore. I know that It Cosmetics CC Cream is gonna last well on me all day. Like, that's a quality product. It was and it still is. We'll see about the photo finish, how that wears underneath, like how the whole look wears today, because I definitely haven't anytime recently paired this with the CC. This concealer, MAC Pro Longwear, means business. Heavy duty coverage, but feeling thin. There's a reason I raved about that once upon a time. I think I need a little more blush put on, but I was gonna say about the powders. I love the Laura Mercier, yet I feel like there's so much good drugstore stuff that's giving that same kind of look. The same with the MAC Studio Fix, really. There are some absolutely elite drugstore powders out there. Butter bronzer, yes, I like this, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be using that all the time again now. We just need a little bit stronger cheek. Yay for a fun lip color though. Urban Decay Naked 3, you can still purchase that. Giving the cool eye. It's funny because we have a rosy association with this palette, kind of just given the packaging and given, like, if you saw it in a lineup with the other Naked palettes, you'd be like, well, that's the rosy one. But then you come away with your look and it's like, it's never that pinky rosy off the charts. The mascara combo there, using the little black primer with the Big Papa on top, I think was elite. Absolutely wonderful. Berry Luminizer for this particular look, I think, came in and saved the day in terms of making the complexion look a little more lively, but yet there are so many good options you can get from the drugstore. I mean, Milani has tons of good highlighters, various brands, there's no shortage. But I think we should be thankful to some of these iconic products that did give the beauty industry some really good things to build upon. And just using some of those things from high-end brands and noting how there are many more accessible options that can do as good or better now. But I do love the finished look. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please let me know in the comments section if anything I've used brought back some memories to you today, and share any other products too that came to your mind when you thought about products that were once really, really popular that you were seeing left and right on YouTube. What else comes to your mind? Let us know, and I will see you guys again very soon. I love you. Bye.